Not far from where Aeneas and his people had set up camp stood the palace of the Italic people who lived in the region. Latinus was reigning there, an old and savvy monarch descended from Faunus and great-grandson of the god Saturn. But King Latinus never had any male heirs. His only offspring was the gorgeous Princess Lavinia, courted by all the unmarried nobles of Latium. Turnus stood out among the princess's many suitors. He was a strong, good-looking, and powerful warrior, son of the king of the Rutuli. But a prophecy predicted that Lavinia would marry a foreign prince of divine lineage. This outsider and his bloodline would give rise to the greatest empire the world has ever seen and would rule the entire planet. This prophecy meant that Latinus would not permit his daughter to marry, hoping that the husband sent by the gods would finally reveal himself. Turnus resented this situation, as he thought that there was no other man but him capable of leading the Latin people after the old king's death. This was when Aeneas's envoys entered the city of the Latins in a bid for hospitality. They were initially regarded with suspicion by the townsfolk, but the king welcomed them with the utmost hospitality, just as Jupiter commanded. Aeneas's entourage presented itself to the king, recounting all their adventures and setbacks until they finally found their way to the Italian peninsula and reached the spot where the gods had intended them to be. As the king listened to the foreigners, he knew for sure that the Trojan leader was the man the oracle of Phoebus had prophesied. Latinus stated that Aeneas and his men were more than welcome in the land, and that their people must unite in marriage, and he would offer his precious daughter to marry Aeneas, forming an unbreakable bond between both peoples and fulfilling the gods' wishes. He presented the Trojans with splendid horses, and sent Aeneas a divine horse-drawn chariot as a betrothal gift. The Trojans set off to tell their leader the good news. But Juno was enraged when she saw that Aeneas and the Trojans all seemed to have a wonderful destiny ahead of them. But if this was indeed their fate, they would not achieve it without much hardship. The queen of the gods sent for Alecto, the most vicious among the Furies, ordering her to spread hatred, bitterness, and the lust for war in people's souls throughout the region. The frightening Fury proceeded to the Latin palace and found the queen there sobbing, as she could not accept her husband's decision to give the hand of her beloved daughter to a foreigner. Using this anger to her advantage, Alecto slipped one of the snakes the Fury carried in her hair around the queen's neck. The snake changed into an enthralling golden necklace, and its sway made the queen go out into the streets uttering vile words against the Trojans, and hating outsiders always has a pleasant ring to those dissatisfied with them. Having completed the first stage of mission, Alecto took flight to the residence of the powerful warrior Turnus, who was at rest. Using a flaming torch, the Fury ignited Turnus's heart with warlust. The ruthless prince would not permit Aeneas and the Trojans to succeed to the kingdom he thought ought to be his. Turnus commanded his men to prepare for battle, as they would set out for war and only rest after the last drop of Trojan blood had fertilized the Latium lands. There was a wonderful deer in the Latium region, more beautiful than any other, and it seemed that it had formed a bond with Silvia, a young daughter of the nobleman responsible for the region's shepherds. The deer appeared unafraid of her and happily accepted her petting it. When the Latins caught sight of such a scene, it was their belief that such a sign could only mean that they were blessed by the gods, and the friendship of such an animal was evidence of this. Having seen this, Juno pointed the majestic animal towards Aeneas' son, who was already proving to be an excellent hunter. Aeneas was astonished by the size of the deer and yearned to have such a trophy. Aeneas shot the animal, wounding it mortally. He and some hunters then followed the deer as it fled towards his friend Silvia's house. Aeneas found the deer in agony with Silvia crying beside it. She exhorted the shepherds who lived there to avenge the death of the sacred deer. They set out to kill Aeneas and the Trojans, but they had absolutely no idea that they were fighting experienced warriors, hardened by iron and blood on the battlefields of the Trojan War. News of the sacred deer's death and the avenging shepherds spread throughout Latium. Hatred of the Trojan foreigners spread like wildfire among the Latins. A major war was about to break out,